Hello, everyone. Welcome to this series of interviews with cybersecurity experts at Cyan. Today, we have a particular type of cybersecurity expertise on the table with our expert, Dan Ehrenreich. We would discuss OT, operational technology, and industrial control system security. Daniel is one of the best placed people to share with us his vast knowledge on the topic. He is regularly presenting and conducting also training courses on defense with industrial and utility control systems. With his over 33 years of experience in engineering and then converging with OT and industrial operations for electricity, water, gas, and power plant verticals. Daniel, welcome and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I'm looking forward to interesting discussion and hope that people will enjoy that and learn from it.
Daniel, you provide SCADA and cyber defense trainings and consulting services. Could you elaborate on the SCADA part? What is it and why is actually important for industry to secure it?
Yeah, it's a good question because the entire industry started with the term SCADA, Supervisory Control Data Acquisition, SCADA. Later over years, new terms were introduced like Industrial Control System for ICS, Operation Technology OT. These terms are slightly different, but for most of the people, they mean the same. The goal of this SCADA OT or industrial control system is to control operations, physical operations, electricity, oil and gas, water, public safety, refineries, chemical plants, food and beverage manufacturing. All these are controlled with some type of industrial control system. When we speak about industrial control system, I would like to say at the very beginning that there is a huge difference between protecting industrial control systems and IT operations. Why? Because when we speak about IT operations, we are mostly concerned about the confidentiality of the data, integrity and availability, what we like to call CIA. When we speak about industrial operations, yes, some people are rotating these letters saying IAC, AIC. However, important to say that we are mostly concerned about operation safety, operation reliability, and availability. So we call it SRA, which is more suitable for industrial control systems. So when we speak about industrial control system, it's a good idea to differentiate, although both systems are using computers and networking devices and communication and so on. However, the philosophy of cyber defense for industrial, it's very much different from the philosophy for protecting data. This is the reason why it is fair to say that there are IT security people and OT security people, and these are two different expertises. I must say that the IT cybersecurity is significantly larger and more people are involved. Industrial cybersecurity is a smaller operation, and unfortunately, until now, we didn't manage to develop enough experts who will handle this industry and upgrade the cyber security posture of organizations. Maybe it happened because we didn't see too many severe cyber attacks, and we hope that we will not see, but it's a good idea to develop more people, to train more people, teach people. Why? Because organizations must be prepared for a cyber attack. It's not a question of if cyber attack will happen, it's just a question of when it will happen. So
Indeed.
everyone must be prepared.
This is very good points you're raising of the difference between OT and IT, and we would touch upon later on. But you also say we don't have enough knowledge. We don't have enough people in the OT security world. You are one that is working in improving the situation. You're training people, you're giving lectures, but also workshops, more practical workshops. Can you give us an insight? What are the best practices in industrial system cybersecurity or cyber resilience?
So as I said already, our challenges, operation safety, reliability, and the availability. So how we are protecting industrial operation? We are all well aware of the very famous triad called PPT, people, policies, procedures, and technologies. So not be surprised on this triangle, people are on the top. Why? Because people must be trained to understand the situation, understand the processes, and so on. Policies and procedures must be available and enforced in every organization. And why we mentioned the technology, the last one? That's the important and interesting question. Why technology is the last one? Because these systems are working around the clock. You can 24/7, you cannot stop a food factory or a water company or an electric company just because you want to upgrade the technology. It's very difficult. And I can tell you, not be surprised that we very often see technologies in the OT area, which are 10, 20, 30 years old, compared to fairly new technologies in the IT area, which are usually fairly new, 3 to 5 years and not older. So how are we protecting? What are the best practices? First of all, we need to understand that IT operations and industrial operations must be separately built, separately deployed, separately tested and commissioned. We should never build a system which is converged, IT and OT together. Segregation and separation between the IT and OT must be assured. However, in recent years, we start to see that the people in the IT zone need to receive data from the industrial zone, and therefore we deployed secured IT-OT interfacing. Interfacing meaning connecting, not converging, but securely connecting. The second best practice is physical perimeter security. Physical perimeter, in many cases, we have sites which are outside. You can see it along the road, a power substation, a water pumping station. These are outside. So protecting, deploying physical perimeter security is very important. And now I want to say something which is a best practice, is that physical perimeter security is precondition to cyber security. If I reverse that sentence, I can clearly say that you cannot achieve cybersecurity if you are not deploying physical perimeter security. The next topic belonging to best practices is that cybersecurity is strong precondition to operational safety. What we learn from that, again, reversing the sentence, you cannot achieve safety if you do not have cybersecurity. So these are the best practices, how we achieve that. Obviously, we will deploy also technologies, broad range of technologies, including firewalls and demilitarized zones and intrusion detection and SIEM and SOC. All these technologies are deployed. But before we go to the technologies, we must have segregation between zones and physical security, which are the basic preconditions.
Seems so simple and yet so difficult to achieve. But when you speak about segregation, there are areas where there is, to a certain level, convergence as well. We do deploy a lot of IT systems in industrial context, but also areas such as industrial IoT, Internet of Things devices, is evolving as one of the major challenges to deal with. From your perspective, what are the key challenges in ensuring cyber security of industrial IoT? And what are the best practices in deploying such secure practices?
So I would like, before we talk about IoT, I would like to go back a little bit to the previous topic. Yes, data from the industrial facility must be communicated to the IT zone, because in the IT zone we have managers, we have buyers, people who are responsible for logistics, so they need the data. I really want to ask people not to use the term convergence, but let's start today to start using the better term secured interfacing, because this will give us the feeling, yes, we are worried about cybersecurity. So not convergence, but secure interfacing. When we speak about the IoT, so yes, many people think that IoT is a new baby on the street, but not at all. People know that IoT existed several decades back. However, the name of that baby was different. We call them different, like machine to machine and others. So here I would like to point that IoT is the term which is related to the IT system for improving the productivity and profitability of commercial organizations. That's the IoT. In the area of industrial operations, we are using another term called IIoT, industrial IoT. And here, the goal is to reduce failures, early detection of failures, reduce the cost of maintenance. IoT requires a lot of understanding. Although many people using it, although many people predict 20, 30, 50, 100 billion units worldwide will be deployed. But I would like to kindly allow me to tell you some bad news about this story. According to publications, about 75% of IoT projects do not deliver the expected benefits, 75%. However, 100% of the deployed IoT and IIoT devices are increasing the cyber attack surface. meaning that every IoT and IIoT unit that you are deploying may serve as a path for an attacker to penetrate to the system. So when we decide to go to the IIoT, I don't want to discourage anyone to do that. We need to think about it. Every IoT device is increasing the attack surface, meaning that if in your home you create another window, immediately you need to think about how that window will be protected so someone might not penetrate through that window to your home. Yes, a window will create benefit, it will bring you sunlight. However, attacker or someone may penetrate through that window. So this is the IoT and IIoT story. We need to think about, do we need it? If yes, what kind of benefit are we expected to receive? Make sure you receive those benefits, make sure, and immediately think about increasing the attack surface and think about how you are going to compensate, what kind of additional barriers you will deploy so that IoT device or IIoT device will not create an additional path for an attacker.
And moreover, unnecessary risk. In cybersecurity, we are used to work with the concept of risk management. There is no 100% security. We would sometimes accept some additional threats, but as you said, make sure you get the benefit out of it. Don't do things just because it's modern. You heard it's good to see what benefit you could actually get out of it, because everything comes with the cost. And this is probably the problem we have as users, household users. We now have unlimited supply of IoT devices for almost free. I mean, such a low price, you think, you buy, you test, but everything comes with the price of security, the price of privacy, and probably in the OT, operation technology world, the safety, reliability, availability is a very high price to pay for testing out new technologies. But do you think, again, focusing on your core expertise of the utilities industries, do you think they're ready to handle the IoT threats, domains, opportunities? If not, what could be done to support them?
I tell you, first of all, we must understand the benefits and the risk. Then we must realize that, and we always realize it, even at our home, when we buy something inexpensive, something from Far East, you know that you may get a very cheap product, but you are not so sure if it's a very good quality product. So when we speak about IoT and IIoT, people must realize that they need to buy a quality product which can be securely integrated into the system. Because see how many times we said just for the last 10 minutes the word security. Everything you want to do, you must do it with security in mind. So I believe that industrial users, because they are so much concerned about operating safety and reliability, and because they are concerned that if something happens, it's going to be only loss of money, it might be a huge mechanical damage, and in worst case, they may risk lives of people. That severe is the situation. So they must be aware that when they want to modernize their system to obtain new benefits, they need to ask the question, do we need it? If we need it, are we ready to pay the price for a high quality and secured product? Are we willing to to allocate resources for maintaining these products for cybersecurity. And finally, when we install that product, we must install it with physical perimeter security included. And now you see, you buy an IoT device for $10, and suddenly the entire package will cost you $100. Okay, so why don't you buy, instead of $10, buy a $15 more higher quality product? Because everything around is where the cost is. The physical security, the programming, the password maintenance, and so many things you need to be worried when you deploy an IoT product. We all remember the attack in 2016. It was a Mirai attack, which shut down huge computer operations like Netflix and others. Why? Because the attackers took advantage of low-cost cameras, which used default password without any protection, and they manipulated those cameras and create them to make a zombie type attacker, and the huge damage happened. So yes, we need to allocate the resources, we need to buy good quality, we need to buy a secure product, we need to deploy physical security, and then hopefully we can be slightly more relaxed.
Is this a difficult message to pass to the utility sector by definition, or let's say, assuming most of them are with more mature safety and quality control systems in place? Are they there yet? Is this message difficult, or they are already aware?
I tell you, the point is that when we talk about the utility, in the utility, there are technical people who understand it. There are managers who understand the benefit. Then come the buyers, and the buyers are interested to buy with the lowest bidder, and suddenly the entire process might collapse. So when we are doing training, when I'm doing training and I talk about modernization and adding new technologies, adding new communication, I always talk about the benefits, the risks, and the risk mitigation. How to reduce the risk in spite of the fact that you want the modernization, you want the benefit, but you don't want to be exposed to higher risk, which might hurt the organization in almost any moment.
You mentioned here the buyer, and indeed we are in there's always a supply chain dimension. We all work together, depend on supplier, buyer. There's a lot of interactions there. We know from the European Agency for Cybersecurity, in their Foresight 2030 threat report, they identified supply chain attacks as #1 threat. How is the utility sector dealing with it? What is the implication for them?
When we speak about cybersecurity, we have two almost hard to manage, I would like to call it pains. One is controlling the supply chain, and the second, the insider threat. What our own employees can do who have almost unlimited access. When we speak about supply chain, a supply chain risk, we need to think about where are you buying your components and your software. Who are your subcontractors? Are you able to control your subcontractors? If your vendor for maintenance is hiring a new employee, are they going to tell you, we hired Mr. ABC, a new employee? Can you tell them, please consider ISO 27001 and please check your employee according to guidelines in ISO 27001, because there is reference to that. So a lot of things that we cannot control. This is the reason why when we mention the PPT triad, the people, policies, procedures, and technologies, when we speak about the policies and procedures, organizations must have in place strong procedures and enforce it it will happen. One of the things that we are often using, that if you buy a product, you buy it in the original package from the manufacturer. Even if you buy something from your kitchen at home, you don't want to buy an appliance for your kitchen in a box which was opened and somebody already played with. You want one which is a nice original package. Second, those people who really handle critical and high-risk infrastructure, they must even buy the product without anyone knowing. Do not mention, I buy this box for my power plant. You just say, we buy this box, period. Never mention where it is going. Why? Because if people, the bad people, may know that there is a destination to that in the power plant, in the nuclear plant, they might be more encouraged to insert a malware into that and maybe even reduce the price, so it will be very attractive for you. So policies and procedures must refer to how you buy components. And I can tell you, at least in my country, there are organizations who do it perfectly. Unbelievable careful how they buy components for critical sites. So yes, it is possible. Little bit of education to awareness will help a lot.
This is very interesting point that you are bringing up now, and makes me think we do have more and more legislation in Europe on supply chain security, but also on ensuring that your supply chain follows the either critical infrastructure legislation or normal digital cyber resilience legislation. And it becomes, with more visibility and more awareness, probably it becomes even more difficult to hide, to keep this kind of confidentiality. What is the purpose of the purchase? Something probably we should think about in Europe. And of course, if you have any specific advice of how these companies do it, policies, yes, I see. Is that rethinking every element of the purchase order to the contractual agreement to delivery? What is, let's say, the key to striking this balance in the supply chain security management?
First of all, I would like to say something that may be very interesting to some people, that industrial operations are a broad range of possibilities. You may have an operation which is not so critical. It can be a small water pump or water well, which is critical, not so critical. On the other side, you may have a power plant, which is more critical. You may have a chemical refinery, which is very critical. And you may have a nuclear plant in some countries, which is highly critical and generate high risk. So when we speak about these legislation documents, you cannot just read it and they say, okay, here is the recipe and that's what I'm going to do. You need to have a linkage between the type of facility that you are protecting and the guidelines. Sometimes you can take things easier. Sometimes you can say, no, these guidelines are not strong enough. I need to take it a step further because I'm protecting critical facility. And this is where we, the industrial cybersecurity experts, are coming and telling people, Let us look at your facility. Where is the risk? Who may attack us? What type of damage may happen? Can a damage will be a 2-hour outage? Okay, maybe I can live with that. A damage can be a damage to machinery, small damage, big damage, or maybe I have to buy a complete generator, which will take me 6 months to replace, or a damage can be risk to lives of people. So that's the expertise that we need to bring to these organizations. And when we are reading these guidelines and registrations, help them to walk through these instructions and use it accordingly.
For their benefit. Again, legislation is there to ensure that we all agree on minimum level of security, is not there just to burden people. So hopefully we take it for the benefit of security and not just a compliance exercise. And that's why experts like you, but also us, could really support companies in taking the benefit out of it. But you mentioned that different sectors, different utilities, organizations would have different threats, would have different risk level. From your experience, is there a difference in the attack scenarios? Are they evolving over time? And is there something interesting you could share with us to get this insight?
So first of all, we must assume that attackers improve all the time. Okay. Now, who are the attackers? According to standard 62443 applicable for industrial organization, there are four levels of attackers. One can be a hacktivist, someone who is interested to cause a small harm, but not have no expertise, no motivation. This is level one. Level two will be the attacker who is focused. He knows what he wants to do, but still have only moderate motivation and willing to invest moderate resources. Then we have the level three, which is usually used by crime organizations, and they already allocate resources, they hire experts, they have motivation, and the motivation is in most cases money, and this is translated to ransomware type attack. They know they are going to invest $3,000 in the action, and they are going to collect $3 million of ransom. And finally, we have the highest level when countries are fighting other countries. Then we must assume that the motivation is very high, resources are unlimited, and we must assume that the attacker will be successful. Why? Because the motivation, because of the resources. It may take him 2 months or 6 months. Eventually, he will be successful. And if we are protecting a highly critical plant, like a power plant or a nuclear plant, we must assume that it can be either level 3 according to IEC 62443, or can be level 4, depending on the country where we are dealing with the topic.
And so I assume what we normally advise clients is they would have different level of maturity and different level of measures. And something that you very well pointed out, I think our audience also have noticed the difference between what you know is going to happen. So attack is going to happen, whether it's going to be successful or not depends how well it's prepared, but also what is the consequence for you as organization, for your economy, for your people or society. It will very much depend on how well you are prepared, how resilient you are, and what you have in place to manage the worst case scenario. You mentioned also ransomware. So typically, ransomware, we see it as a very significant economic damage, not so much today in terms of safety or of a privacy issue. But is ransomware very well organized and very massively deployed today in the IT world, at least? Is it just the tip of the iceberg? What are your views on this threat? And are there other common threats we should be more aware of?
It's the good question. I'm going to answer it. But before that, I would like to refer to your first part of what you said. Every organization must have business continuity planning, BCP, which is the lifetime process. You need to work a long day, a long months and years, exactly how we are educating children. It's the lifetime project. Then every organization need to have incident response procedure, which is usually an action which lasts minutes. You need to be well prepared to stop the incident and minimize the damage, and for sure minimize the risk to life. And finally, every organization need to have the DRP, disaster recovery planning. You need to know upfront how you are going to restore the normal operation of the plant. Where are you going to buy the computers which can arrive tomorrow morning, not next month, tomorrow? Who are the experts who will come to help you? Who are the subcontractors who will instantly come to your facility and help you? Because recovery of the normal operation is highly critical. It's urgent because people rely on your service: electricity, water, refineries, manufacturing of food and beverage, and so on. So BCP, IRP, and DRP. Speaking about ransomware, I really would like to correct here some misunderstanding about among people. First of all, ransomware is an IT-related incident. IT-related. Why? Because when there is an attack, typical attack generate 4 bills, which the invoices, if I can say that, which the victim will receive. You will receive 3 or 4 invoices. Invoice number 1, if you pay us, we give you back the decryption. We give you the decryption key so you can decrypt the files that we encrypted for you. And you may tell them, sorry, don't bother, I have my own backup, I don't need your decryption key. Oh, we forgot to tell you, before we encrypted your files, we downloaded your own files, privacy information, banking information, customer information. If you pay us, we promise not to use that information. Said, oh, now it's the more critical story. And finally, they said, oh, one more thing. If you pay us the 3rd bill, we will not attack your customers. Attack your customer. This is not something that my backup will protect me. And the 4th invoice they will give you, if you pay us some extra money, we will not tell the world that your organization is lousy and was not protected. Okay, so that's the story about ransomware that people need to understand. The second topic about ransomware, many people think that attacks like Colonial Pipeline, a JBS meat factory, Norwegian Aluminium, that there were OT directed attack. It's not true. All these were IT oriented attacks. Until now, we did not see situation that someone will demand a ransom due to attacking the industrial zone. It didn't happen until now. It may happen. I don't know what will happen next year or next month. And until now, it's IT. So let's explain that for a moment. Why Colonial Pipeline was shut down? Not because someone damaged the industrial control system which controlled the supply of the gas, because they attacked the billing computer. It was, I can bravely say, it was the negligence of the management. They never thought about it, how we are going to supply a gas to the east coast of United States if our computers will not operate. So ransomware is purely IT directed, okay? Those industrial facilities which shut down the operation following to ransomware, they did it because they never prepared themselves. Okay, what are you going to do if there will be no bread in the store? You said, no worry, I'm going to bake my own bread. I'm prepared, right? You prepared yourself. And that's the way we must always think about. Be prepared. Business continuity planning, incident response, and disaster recovery, and then all will be fine. So I hope I answered that question.
No, absolutely. That made me think and even check preparation. So the time of disruption, the more prepared you are, there's a direct correlation between the time of disruption. So you limit the time of disruption. We know for industrial operations, this could be impact in terms of millions lives, maybe political also issue of the organization. And today we know also fines from regulators for lack of being prepared to face the incident. I looked it up, Colonial Pipelines, indeed, as you say, Daniel, the disruption was 6 days straight, disruption of supplies. We all know this is a huge, huge gap when it comes to industrial operation disruption, but is relatively okay when it comes to ransomware. In 2021, 2022, average 24 days of disruption of operation after a ransomware attack on average for between different sectors and industries and size of companies. So one can imagine that this is indeed a very important threat, ransomware, but we can face it first and foremost by preparing for any kind of threat. Because it doesn't matter if it's ransomware or if it's other kind of attack. If you are prepared, you would be able to absorb it and to minimize the impact. Very, very nice speaking to you, but I know we cannot cover it all in 30 minutes.
I would like to have 2 examples related to ransomware. Yeah. There is an excellent example of ransomware against Norway Aluminium Organization, 40 factories around the world. When it happened, they instantly started to operate via phones and faxes. They knew what they are going to do. Another example, when it happens in the hospital, unfortunately, yes, life-saving actions they can do, but not having access to the data of the people will make this treatment very, very difficult. So we need to be prepared, and that's the point.
Indeed. And so to be prepared, it's a whole new conversation to have with you, Daniel, but maybe you can share very quickly a little bit of the webinars, of the trainings that you give, so that the audience has a next to-do list to follow up. And of course, we will share your contact details so they can contact you in case of more questions.
Yes, thank you. And I really dedicate my time to a very simple action training, because I believe that training has the highest return on investment, highest return. You can imagine how much will cost you to buy a new computer, a new SOC room, a new technology. Training has high ROI. That's the reason. Furthermore, I would like to say that 99% of cyber attacks which were successful, it's the bad word, but successful means that the attacker was successful to cause damage, okay? I call it successful attack, happened because people were not trained and they did not react quickly and correctly. If those people would be trained, probably the damage could be lower and the recovery to normal would be shorter and at lower cost. The training programs which I created are dedicated to broad range of people, to operators, to technical people in the industrial area, to IT people who want to understand what is happening in the industrial zone, and also to managers who can make decisions about investment and about hiring resources. Training programs can start with as short as 2-3 hours, up to 32 hours, which is the full 4 or 5 day program, where people learn everything that they need to know and they need to understand. I don't think that my role is to teach people about technologies, how to program a computer, how to program a defense device. They can learn it from the vendors much better. I see my role teaching people about methodology, what is right, how to make a decision, what type of defense mechanism do I need in this vertical or another vertical. So training programs are available. All participants receive all the presented slides, all the material. I published over 100 papers about industrial cybersecurity worldwide during the past 12 years, and they can have access to all this material. And the goal is very simple: increase the cybersecurity posture of your organization, be better prepared, react faster, and recover quickly. So simple, but important.
Very nice takeaway of this discussion. Thank you very much, Daniel, for sharing with us, and we will follow you for future updates.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here. And more important, anyone can drop me an email, and I always reply with detailed answer.
Thank you.